Do I use that one here or use this one?
This one. You can use this one.
Okay. Very good. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. If you could, everybody in the marketplace, if they could start making their way into the main plenary area. We'll be commencing in around about 5 minutes. Also, if you have not picked up your translation headgear, you can do so over at the right-hand side of the plenary area here, or the left-hand side. So if everybody could start moving into the plenary room, we'll start very shortly. Thank you very much.
Muno Malawi pa ana obadwa 100 aliwonse 47 mwa iwo amapezeka ndi vuto lopinimbira.
Maunduna onse aboma, mabungu omwe si aboma, tiyeni tiyike ntchito yopititsa patsogolo kadyedwe kabwino m'mapulani athu.
Mafumu, atsogolera ndale, atsogolera mipingo, tiyeni tilimbikitse ntchito za madyedwe abwino m'madera mwathu.
Mtawi ya kukula kwa mwana yo jonde usamanyireni mwana maye Malawi nitikola mwana nilenji koma mwana wa kwilimbira ino mamulera bwanji mwanayo mukulu mamu mana moyo watazi mwanayo lero wa kwilimbira mamulera bwanji mwanayo mukulu Kodi mwamulira bwa mukudziwa tonse kuti mwana umalera ndi mudzi. Anthu amaudindo mabungwe komanso mafumu. 47% yana mu Malawi akukwinibira. Uchembere, uchembere, uchembere. Ndivuto Malawi ndivuto pagana funda. Inu waboma tiyeni tionesese mudziko muli chakudya. Echithandizo chokwanira muzipatala. Inu hamipingo ndi maunduna tonse tigwirane manja. Pakuti ndizoteka kupewa kunyenjera. Inu ndizoteka kupewa kukwinibira mwana yo.
Malawi ndi dziko la mwana lilenji koma mwana wakwinibira.
Mwamulera bwanji mwanayo makulu.
Mwamumana moyo wathanzi mwanayo lero wakwinibira.
Inu mwamulera bwanji mwanayo makulu.
Malawi ndi dziko la mwana lilenji koma mwana wakwinibira.
Inu mwamulera bwanji mwanayo makulu.
Mwamumana moyo wathanzi mwanayo lero wakwinibira.
Mwamulera bwanji mwanayo.
Ladies and gentlemen, could I invite you to take your seats, please? We'll start in 1 minute, please. Okay. I'm about to commence the 2015 Global Gathering of the Sun Movement. My name is Tom Arnold. I'm the interim coordinator of the Scaling Up Nutrition Movement. And we're all here together. We're all part and parcel of the Sun Movement family. And so it's my immense pleasure to welcome all the family members here to Milan for this event. These global gatherings serve to enable us to take stock of what we've achieved and to pinpoint our ambition for the future. But we're all clear about what our central purpose is, and that is that we work together to eliminate malnutrition. Now, I've watched these global gatherings grow from 2012, 13, 14, 15, and I think they serve a tremendous purpose. They bring us together. They enable us to inspire each other. And I think over the past year, we've seen some of that progress. I'm going to be your Master of Ceremonies for the next 3 days, and we have the support and help of some of the most esteemed nutrition champions in the world here together. So we want to make this gathering something really to remember, something bigger and better than any of the ones before. Since we met last November in Rome for the 2014 Global Gathering, we've done a number of very practical things. We finalized the independent comprehensive evaluation of the movement's first 4 years in effect, when the evaluation was done. And then we had a significant discussion about that evaluation across all the movement stakeholders. And arising out of that, we worked together to chart the direction for the next 5 years. We also put in place, and it will meet here for the first time this week, a new executive committee which will help strengthen the governance of the movement. And quite recently, the Sun Lead Group approved a strategic direction for the next 5 years, starting from 2016, which we will discuss here over the coming days. So that's basically our starting point for the next 3 days. We're enormously fortunate to meet here in this wonderful city of Milan, who've done such an extraordinary job in hosting the Expo meeting. And I'm going to introduce us to this event, to get the event formally going. I'm going to introduce you to the Mayor of Milan, Giuliano Pisapiam. And it really has been a very significant year for the Mayor and for the city of Milan. Just last week, the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact and Framework for Action was signed by 115 people. Cities, 84 mayors and deputy mayors attended the signing ceremony. So it's a matter of great significance, and it's a great pleasure I introduce to the Mayor. Thank you very much.
Dear friends from Sun, citizens of the world, dear David, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your kind invitation. Thank for coming here to Milan, and welcome to the city of Expo 2015, devoted to the issues of a right to food, healthy food for all, fighting food waste and sustainable development. Milan in the past few days saw an extraordinary event, a gathering of many, many people, experts, all committed to the issue of the planet future. And in Milan, 113 mayors from throughout the world, south, north, east and west, mayors in countries who represented large metropolis, who expressed the wish of over 400 million people who gathered after 6 months to a year of common work to sign a covenant so that each of us can commit locally and globally for a fairer world, a world where there's no such thing as a separation between people who eat too much and people who haven't got enough to eat. And so the Secretary General of the UN declared that hunger is more than a lack of food. It's a terrible injustice which we can't accept. It's a terrible injustice which you, together with other people, with many associations, non-government organizations, other institutions, we can change this together. And that's what we discussed over the 6 months of the Milan Expo, just to show you how we feel the need for practical actions for a planet which in 2050 will have to nourish 9 billion people, 6 billion of which will live in great urban agglomerates. So we have to act now to be prepared to a strategic appointment in a world that has to tackle already migrations of people marching away from wars, hunger and poverty. So the challenge of nutrition is a global issue now, and as such, it needs global responses, but also local responses like localism and globalism, if I may use these terms, that can really change the situation, which is unacceptable. So hunger and denutrition haven't been eliminated yet, with their count of million victims and the new plague of obesity that does not spare the north and the south of the world. 1.3 billion tons of food waste every year. Wars for a primary good such as water, so much fought for. And the new geography of hunger will be a fertile ground for recruiting soldiers for the wars of the third millennium, starting from the new terrorist challenge. So in a world in which most of the population lives in great metropoles are not only necessary but indispensable. So such as indispensable is a common commitment to find shared local solutions to tackle together global problems. I said so because it was an emotion to see all the mayors representing their cities not only committing by sharing their good practices, but committing to practical solutions on issues where we can work. Many cities are already working. Milan, London, and many others, for example, are working so that food waste might become a way to eliminate injustice and give food for those who haven't got enough. So Milan wants to go along this pathway together with all the other mayors and all the people like you who believe in fairness, right to nutrition and healthy food. So practical commitment for each man and woman in favor of each and every man and woman. And this is the covenant we have signed and we have given to the Secretary General of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon, and we won't stop here, so that men and women like us, like you, will sort of make sure we can change. So we've started down a journey that won't end with Expo 2015, and the cities will continue working, and periodically every 2 years they'll just share their progress in food waste, against food waste. So not words but facts rather, just like the progress your association has made. SUN was started with a limited number of representatives, and now there's a full room, and over 500 people have come to Milan to represent the world. So what we've tried to do, and it's one of the immaterial heritage of Expo 2015, is the contribution together with you of the great metropolis of the planet, and how we will share with international institutions the solutions for the third millennium. Those who have too much and die of hunger and malnutrition, those who die for an excessive unhealthy food. And I hope the women and men of Sun will march together along this pathway with a passion that led us to be here together in this beautiful Milan. And I hope you have some time, a little time, to visit my charming city. Thank you.
Mayor, thank you very much. I think that was very interesting because you stressed very clearly the core principles of sustainability and social justice that your vision, the Urban Pact, is based upon, but also then the very practical nature of that pact, which I think, as you said, using the example of Sun, can start from here and grow to many other cities and metropolis. So really thank you so much for that. We're now going to move to a short video from one of the great champions of the Sun, Tony Lake, who's the chairman, is the executive director of UNICEF and chairman of the Sun Lead Group. Tony unfortunately can't be with us. He really, as you will see, will say he would have loved to have been here, but he has had a medical issue with an eye operation which prevented him from being here. But let's listen to Tony Lake.
Welcome everyone to the Sun Global Gathering. I wish I could join each of you in person, but I've just had some minor eye surgery which keeps me from flying. I'm arranging a phone meeting with the Secretariat and some network members next week so I can hear the results of your discussions today, because I'm intensely interested. Of the events I cannot attend over the next few weeks, this one is the hardest to miss, truly. The energy and the enthusiasm at these meetings always inspires me. And more, they remind us that Sun is driven from within and not from above, a true movement. Since our last meeting, our journey together has reached a series of new milestones. We've implemented the recommendations of the independent evaluation. An executive committee was formed in an inclusive manner. The selection procedure for the next Sun coordinator has begun. And we're finalizing a new strategy to guide our efforts over the next 4 years. But as our movement changes and adapts, as we continue our journey together, we can never lose sight of what really matters: results. Results like the new data from 11 countries showing significant reductions in stunting levels in children under 5 years of age. And the global results achieved since the first global gathering in 2012. That year, there were roughly 165 million stunted children. Today, 3 years later, thanks in part to our movement's efforts around the world, that number is 159 million. Think of it, 6 million more children now living their lives, now building their futures, free from the effects of stunting. I hope you take the satisfaction, each of you should, in that progress. And we look forward to even more progress and faster than before, because 55 governments have now signed on as members. They are spurred on and supported in common effort by more than 2,000 civil society members and 160 from the private sector, all committed to our common cause, to reaching those children still being left behind. From the children of sub-Saharan Africa or South Asia, where stunting is most prevalent, to the children denied nutrition because of the conflicts raging in their countries, suffering once again for something utterly beyond their control. We've achieved so much together in 3 years, but what will our progress look like in 3 more years, or 2020, or by 2030, the year of the Sustainable Development Goals? The answer to these questions is there with you today, in the colleagues sitting beside you, on each side of you, in all the people that are part of this movement, all the members of the networks, Tom Arnold and the Sun Secretariat, all of you, all of us. We know what works, we know what to do, we know what's at stake. And we know our job will never be finished until each and every child gets the nutrition she deserves, the chance at the healthy, productive life he deserves, the future they all deserve, for they are our future. Have a great gathering.
You really feel he wants to be here with us, but he can't be anyway. Okay, I now want to introduce Florence Lasbennes, who's the head of the Sun Movement Secretariat. I've had the enormous pleasure of working very closely with Florence and her team over the past year. It's a bit like the loaves and the fishes. I'm always quite mystified how much is achieved by so few. And the person who leads that effort is Florence Lasbennes. Florence.
Merci Tom. Bonjour à tous.
Okay, so thank you. We're glad to welcome you to this Sun Global Gathering. This meeting really takes stock of the situation within our family over the journey we've taken 5 years ago. This meeting will also enable us to understand which pathways or tracks to go along for the next 5 years. I know you're all deeply committed and motivated. We all wish to eliminate malnutrition. We all come from different institutions, but we're all here together now. So I'd like to wish and welcome each of the 150 countries represented, which are part of our movement. Today, in this room today, we have representatives from Bangladesh, Benin, Botswana, Burkina Faso, Burundi, Cambodia, Cameroon, Chad, Comore Islands, Congo, Costa Rica, Ivory Coast, Congo, El Salvador, Ethiopia, Gambia, Ghana, Guatemala, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Haiti, Indonesia, Kenya, Kyrgyzstan, Opidia, Lesotho, Liberia, Madagascar, Malawi, Mali, Mauritania, Mozambique, Myanmar, Namibia, Nepal, Nigeria, Pakistan, Peru, the Philippines, Rwanda, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Somalia, South Sudan, Sri Lanka, Swaziland, Tajikistan, Togo, Uganda, Tanzania, Vietnam, the Yemen, Zambia, and Zimbabwe.
Et en plus, nous avons des collègues.
Moreover, we've also got colleagues coming from the Indian state of Maharashtra, and representatives from Uttar Pradesh who are not yet members of our movement, but they're here today. So thank you for traveling so far to be here today. And we have colleagues coming from France, Switzerland, Italy, Canada, the United States, Belgium, Great Britain, Ireland, Germany, Australia, Japan, Holland. And I'm pretty sure I've forgotten some countries, of course, Italy. And so we have colleagues coming from UN agencies, from donor governments, foundations, enterprises, civil society, organizations, academia, university, the scientific community more in general. And this year, we also have parliamentarians, we have journalists who are not only here to refer what we say, but journalists who are committed to the fight against malnutrition. And they support all the efforts of the Sun movement. And we have colleagues coming from the movement secretariat who saw them at the reception, and they'll be here for these 3 days. And we have colleagues who represent the various networks. And together we will share our enthusiasm, our ideas, our doubts, why not? So I can declare this gathering open.
For that. I want to now do the mundane task of just talking us through some of our house rules for the next couple of days. Firstly, to say all of you have your pack. And in this pack, you have three sets of documents, or three documents. The first one is the entire range of the Sun in practice briefs. This is basically what we're learning as we go along, and we're documenting that learning in these briefs. The second document is the 2015 Sun Movement Progress Report. This is capturing what's actually happening on the ground, and each year this is building up into a really important piece of evidence as to the impact of what our collective work is doing. And the third important document is the draft Sun Movement Strategy for 2016 to 2020. This has been the subject of work within the movement over quite a few months, and it has been brought to this stage and presented and approved by the Sun Lead Group in September. And finally, you also will have in your pack the program for the next 3 days. And importantly, in this, there is a feedback form, and we would like you to fill in this feedback form. We want to use your feedback to continue to work to make the gathering each year better and better. Now, I want to talk in a bit more detail about today. From now until 11:15, we have the opening plenary. It's all about our progress, and it's about the future of the Sun movement. From 11:45 to 1:15 in the afternoon, we have the marketplace inauguration and lunch. So I want you to use this time to visit the many stands that are in the hall behind us, and just to use it to find old friends, to reconnect with people. That's, after all, a key function of this gathering. And also you will find there some of the remaining copies of the outstanding piece of work, which is the 2015 Global Nutrition Report. We come back after lunch at 1:30 for the second plenary, and that's about the topic more nutrition for the money and more money for nutrition. Crucially important matter to discuss how we get the best out of the resources that we have. From 14:30 to 1500 hours, we break for coffee, and then we move to a really important part of the working day. We move into meetings of the Sun networks, and they're going to break up for their individual meeting session. And you'll see the relevant room numbers for these meetings on page 13 of your program. And this brings us then to the formal end of the day, of the global gathering. But we're not finished yet. We can then relax it's traditionally at this stage one of the really high social points of this global gathering. It's the reception offered on behalf of Sight and Life, and they're having a side event from 7:30 this evening until 9 o'clock. And if you're interested in attending, there are a limited number of buses leaving from outside the entrance of the convention centre here from 7 p.m. In the days to come, we will have a number of plenaries and workshops. They're all focused on further refining how we can achieve impact together. Everyone will have the opportunity to speak, reflect, and hone our collective contributions to achieving the Sun Movement vision. And by the final strategy series on Thursday, I hope that the energy that will be part and parcel of this gathering will really come together, and we'll be clearer about what we want to achieve over the next 5 years of this movement. And it is, as Tony Lake said, our movement. We have the opportunity to talk together about how we envision the collective way forward. But we want to try and use this time together over the next 3 days to focus on 4 particular questions. What ambition should we collectively have? How will we, each and all, contribute to the achievements of the Sun Movement? What do we need from others to make sure our contribution is most effective? And how will we measure progress and account for our contributions? So that's, I think, the core of what we're about here over the next 3 days. So we now want to move on to the first of the plenaries of the Global Gathering. And it's with particular pleasure I want to welcome David Nabarro, the Special Representative of the Secretary General for Food and Nutrition Security. Last year, when we assembled in Rome for the Global Gathering, David, in addition to his many other duties, was in the throes of leading the international response to Ebola. As in all other tasks he undertakes, he has done a magnificent job in that regard. But it's a particular pleasure that this year, with so much, with Ebola certainly not defeated, but certainly reduced considerably, we're going to have David with us for a much bigger proportion of this year's Sun Global Gathering. So David, over to you.
Thank you very much indeed, Tom. Brilliant. Ladies and gentlemen, very, very good morning and welcome to everybody. This room is almost full, and it's beautiful to see you all here today, 55 countries and numerous organizations. It is my honor to be your facilitator for the first panel this morning. And what I'd like to do is to start by focusing a bit on what has happened internationally during this year, which I believe is very relevant to our work. I'm then going to guide us through a very interesting panel in which we will have 8 guests interacting with you. And by the end, I hope that we will have some further examination of our vision for the future. During this panel discussion, there will be an opportunity for you to interact with the panelists. And I hope that you will feel free to do so, and we will have more opportunities throughout this global gathering for conversation between us. Just 3 weeks ago, I was in New York, where world leaders adopted the Agenda for Sustainable Development to end poverty, promote prosperity and well-being for all, to protect the environment, and to address climate change. This is called the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And I must tell you that it was the biggest gathering of world leaders that has happened in the history of the United Nations. And it was an extraordinary event reflecting the results of 3 years of negotiations and debate. It's truly an agenda that is owned by all the world. Achieving improved nutrition and building inclusive, resilient, and sustainable food systems are right in the center of this agenda for sustainable development. And there's a recognition that you can't do that unless you follow all of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. It's not just one, it's the whole lot. And that means sustainable, people-centered investments across multiple sectors. In this Agenda 2030, there are other important elements that I'd like to share with you. Firstly, no one should be left behind. Secondly, those who are the most difficult to reach should be given priority. This is an agenda for justice, for human rights, and for equity. And it is the agenda that has been agreed in a solemn way by all the world leaders. And if we can ensure that there are effective investments supported with the necessary predictable finance, the agenda will be realized. And as Ban Ki-moon said to us when we met last Friday here in Milan, eliminating hunger and malnutrition must always be at the heart of Agenda 2030. The movement for scaling up nutrition, with its focus on multiple sectors and engaging all stakeholders, is a real example of what the world expects as we pursue the 2030 development agenda. This movement, of which we are all members, contributes to the spirit of global solidarity. We focus on the needs of the poorest and most vulnerable. We encourage participation of governments, of non-government stakeholders, but most importantly, of all people everywhere. We come together as a movement because we believe that it is only through working together across a diversity of different sectoral approaches, linking together different ministries and government departments, ensuring that our different institutions can blend to work for a single goal. This is the only way to achieve the progressive realization of the right to adequate food and nutrition justice for everyone, everywhere. Now, this is a very important global gathering because it is the one to chart the direction for the future. And it really is that kind of moment, and you are all part of it. We had an evaluation last year, and those of you who were with us last year in Rome met the evaluators. And although they said the movement was doing well, they also suggested that the movement has to demonstrate that it is continuously advancing and improving, so that more and more children, women, and men enjoy good nutrition. And this continuous improvement can only happen if we are self-critical, if we examine all that we do and we explore to see if we can find better ways to work together, consolidating what works best and then developing new and even better ways of working. In 2 words, it is consolidate and innovate. Those are the characteristics of a great movement, our movement. The work that we have all been doing to build and drive this movement for nutrition is pioneering. There are not many other groups like this working in the way that we all do on development issues. We must continue to pioneer, to improve through cooperation and through innovation. That's how we will be able to work towards the ambitions of the 2030 Agenda. I am proud of what we have achieved. Many of you are proud of what we are achieving. Let's go on, building on our strong start to reach our destination together. Okay, that's my speech. Now, we have lots of very special people to welcome. And the next discussion is dear to me because it is about the journey. And my first guest, and it's a real honor to introduce my first guest because I've got to know her rather well in the last few days. My first guest is Ambassador Amira Hassan Gornas. Ambassador Gornas is chair of the Committee on World Food Security, but has actually got lots of other great achievements to her credit, including leading an Arab movement for improved food security and nutrition, and also leading the negotiations of the G77 in the climate debates and the COP process. So, Ambassador Gornas, thank you for coming back to Milan. You have the floor now. Welcome.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
I just do this. Okay?
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
I would like to thank you very much for your invitation to join you this year in Milan on this important gathering. Today is also a special day for me, since this is the first time that I speak as chair of the United Nations Committee on World Food Security, since my election last week at the 42nd session of the committee. Those of you who were in Rome last week will agree with me that this session was particularly busy and marks a turning point for Committee on World Food Security, the most inclusive international and intergovernmental platform for all stakeholders to work together on global food security and nutrition issues. As Mr. Nabarro has just mentioned, Agenda 2030 was adopted in New York 3 weeks ago, aiming to eliminate in the next 15 years the most unacceptable forms of injustice, such as hunger, poverty, and exclusion. But we can only do so by working all together on all goals simultaneously in an integrated way. CFS 42 marked the first international conference gathering all stakeholders from the food security and nutrition community after this unique event. On this unique moment, CFS stockholders sent a strong message to the rest of the world. They are aware of the contribution they can make and ready to play their role. Last week, CFS decided that the implementation of Agenda 2030 and the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals will hold a central place in its work. Second thing, CFS also responded to the call from the Second International Conference on Nutrition. It will support stakeholders' constant efforts over the next years by aiming to provide a global framework and enhancing its work, in particular on nutrition-sensitive agriculture and the understanding of the benefits on nutrition of healthy food systems. It can do so by providing a platform for all of you, multi-stakeholders of the SUN movement, representatives from governments, from civil society, from the private sector, from the UN system, to proudly share your success stories of strengthening nutrition-sensitive policies in your countries and the results you are already starting to reap. Last week, Mary Mubi, a dear friend of CFS, came back to Rome from Harare to share with us the incredible progress made in Zimbabwe on nutrition over the last few years, but also the questions they are facing and her ambitions to keep moving forward. Her story, which might sound familiar to most of you here, was inspiring to a great deal of people in the room who are not yet part of the SUN movement and who are struggling to reverse malnutrition and its hidden impact in their countries. It was beautiful to see how what CFS strives to achieve with its multi-stakeholders at global level is gradually taking place at national level and what impressive results is already yielding. All of you in this room have stories to tell. We in CFS want to hear them. In the next 2 years of my term, I want to work with you to ensure that the global CFS platform really has an impact where it should, at grassroots level, in households, and especially with children and women. Coming from one of the developing countries struggling with food insecurity and malnutrition, I will never forget that this is the only reason we are gathered here. I am aware that this is a huge challenge, but I am looking forward to tackling this challenge with all of you. Hearing about SUN's progress in just a few years, looking at where CFS is only 6 years after its reform, is incredibly encouraging. I place all my trust in the collaboration of SUN and CFS in the future to gain ground against malnutrition, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
Ambassador, thank you so much. We look forward to collaboration. Thank you. Great. As we go into this panel discussion, what we're going to do is to look together from where have we come and where must we go. And to set us on our way, I'm so grateful to Ambassador Gornas for offering us her image of how the SUN movement and the CFS can come closer together, and also for describing this incredible presentation that took place last week in Rome when Mary Mubi of Zimbabwe described her life in stimulating multi-sectoral action around common results frameworks and securing results at the local level through inclusion of many different groups of actors. And that's the kind of discussion we're going to try to proceed with during the next hour. What do you do to inspire others to take action? How do you use advocacy to influence decision makers? How do you ensure that your national nutrition plans are of high quality? How do you bring together the groups that need to implement them? What tools help you to measure progress? What are the techniques you use to overcome setbacks and continue moving forward? On what must we focus to do more and better together? These are the questions that will be in our minds as we go through the next 3 days. These are the questions that we hope that our colleagues who are in the various panels will help us to answer. These are the questions that are also addressed in the Sun Movement Progress Report in your orange bags, an exceptional compendium of progress. As we go through this panel, I'm also wanting to recognize and appreciate the work of Tom Arnold, who has coordinated the movement during the past year, and I will come back again and again to acknowledging his work. Can we just give him a very big hand? I don't know where you are, Tom. There you are. So for our panelist number one, I would like to invite Ibu Nina Sardjunani to come up. Ibu Nina is well known to all of us. She is the Sun Movement lead group member and the focal point for Indonesia. Ibu Nina, delighted to see you. You've just got off a plane.
Yes.
And you've flown halfway around the world, so you're looking very fresh. And thank you. Please give us your wisdom. She's a Sunner. In Indonesia, they're called the Sunners.
The Sunner.
And so to the Chief Sunner, welcome.
Thank you. Very good morning to all of you, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed an honor for me to present in this plenary on progress and achievement of Sun Movement. We all understand that malnutrition is a crisis with many phases, from the visually shocking signs of wasting to the silent cognitive impacts of stunting through the increasing obesity emergency. Sun countries are proving that to tackle malnutrition, we must recognize that nutrition transcends sectors. It is both a means and an end. Since it is a multifaceted challenge, a genuine partnership driven by passionate leadership at the highest levels required. Sun countries are proving that high-level political commitment is a critical ingredient for galvanizing concerted action across government and across society. It has long been an issue too difficult to grasp. It is fast becoming an issue too big to ignore. Presidents, kings, prime ministers, first ladies, and senior ministers have spearheaded high-level nutrition events in 34 Sun countries throughout 2014-2015. High-level nutrition champions nominated by Sun countries are putting their power, charisma, intelligence, and passion behind nutrition in 30 Sun countries. As lessons learned trickle in from countries reporting progress, we are inspired that the nutrition improvements we advocate for are supporting change. High-level political commitment is paving a path for multi-sectoral action. A multi-sectoral, multi-stakeholder approach to defeating malnutrition is no longer an abstract aspiration. It is a new normal. Health, agriculture, education, women's empowerment, and water and sanitation, and many other sectors are increasingly collaborating for results. This is the achievement of all of us in this room today. Our power to ignite, change, and challenge how we work together. This passion must endure for the next phase of the SUN movement. Let us reaffirm the ambition of SUN movement countries to achieving nutrition justice and an end of malnutrition in its all forms by having more nutrition champions, stronger multi-stakeholders collaboration, and more sharing of lessons learned. Thank you.
Can I just say, I loved it. Power to ignite change. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And of course, Ibunina knows about this because she and many others with whom she worked managed to get the President of Indonesia to issue a presidential decree on how to take this work forward. Super important, and really I believe that your remarks just outlined that. Et maintenant, si vous êtes anglais, vous prenez le chose ici, parce que c'est le tour de Abdoulaye Kar, coordinateur national pour le Comité national pour la lutte contre malnutrition, bureau du Premier ministre.
Abbiamo appunto altri rappresentanti. Il primo è, the first is the representative from Senegal. And I'd like to share with you a meeting I had in 2009 with a compatriot in Senegal called Mariama, living in the south of Senegal. Mariama had been chosen to be the beneficiary of a cash transfer program because they lived in a department where there was food insecurity and had a child, a 5-year-old child who suffered from malnutrition. So this lady had attracted my attention. She was in a wheelchair, and it was a mine that blew up close to her to cause that. And when we met, her daughter was having 2 premature twins. In the end, they didn't survive. And you will realize how all the challenges we have to face focus on Mariama. I mean, malnutrition, lack of food security, social protection, early marriage. I mean, we all have Mariamas in our countries. We've all met them, one of them, and I think all the Mariamas around us are expecting from us practical solutions to end up with these tragedies. They know we grow platforms, we build platforms that we force leaders to invest further in nutrition. They know we're trying to set up multi-sector solutions. But our Mariamas also tell us that we have to be quick because there's little time. So we no longer want our children to die because of malnutrition. Our Mariamas know that we are defining and paving the way for the future, and that our challenge is that of defining a track and outlining it and chartering it with a multi-sector sort of plan of action. Our Mariamas no longer want all this, and it's their right. And we have a group of actors with experience, with strong points, and our role today is that of intensifying our cooperation to make sure that in the future there will be Mariamas who marry when they want to, who have children when they want to, and who have decent nutrition status. multi-sector agreement. You're right. I like that. We all know that we have to take action. We have to take action for people like Mariama.
Precisely to help guide us in our thinking and our action. And it was also important, I feel, that Abdoulaye Kar stressed that this is about human rights and justice. And it's with that I now move on to ask Christine Guatude-Kintu, who is Permanent Secretary of the Office of the Prime Minister and member of the SUN Executive Committee from Uganda. Christine Guatude-Kintu, you have the floor, and it's with real pleasure that I welcome you to the stage. Merci.
Good morning, everyone. It's a great to be addressing such an august audience. I come from Uganda, and the SUN movement has caused a ripple, and a big ripple. The movement is getting stronger and stronger, and because of the size of this ripple, we needed game changers, because at 33% of children under 5 stunted in Uganda is not acceptable anymore. The statistics show in Uganda that 33% of our children who are under 5 are stunted. And we have therefore put a plan to reduce on this stunting. The first game changer that we have had in Uganda is to have the National Planning Framework, which is now popularly abbreviated the NDP2, profiling nutrition as an issue, as a standalone, with very specific targets on reducing stunting from 33% to 22%. So in terms of investment, the National Development Plan therefore puts a budget, puts resources, and a common results framework with clear measurable indicators on how we are going to move this forward. And that's a game changer, because before it was not profiled as it is now. The second game changer in Uganda is the National Coordination Office, which is the one I'm coming from, the Office of the Prime Minister, in taking lead to coordinate the multi-sectoral approach. And that's important for us, because the coordinator should have the convening power. The convening power brings together everybody, government departments, civil society organizations, development partners, and the committee which I chair does have representation from all those groupings. So nutrition issues are at the center stage of government business because they are right in the office of the Prime Minister. I personally convene these meetings. Then game changer number 3 is our lead champion, the lead champion on nutrition, who often calls me and says, Christine, where are we on nutrition? Is the Prime Minister himself. So the engagement on nutrition is at the highest level, and the Prime Minister convenes meetings between the development partners, government, and other stakeholders to focus on our challenges, to focus on the actions being taken, to appraise on what we can do, we have done, and what we need to do better. And this steps up the engagement and does inspire others who may have disregarded or simply not in the know of what is at stake. The fourth game changer is the advocacy. Last week, we signed off the advocacy plan on nutrition, because you'll all agree with me, it's about sensitization, it's about mobilization, it's about bringing stakeholders together, it's about reaching out to the communities where we need to take action, where action needs to be enhanced. with those that are working with us at the community level. I thank you very much.
Plan, National Coordination Office, lead champion and advocacy, and you right at the centre of it all. Thank you very much, Madam, for explaining it to us. And it's with these examples that show us how countries have moved forward to develop this capacity for multi-sectoral working and bringing together different stakeholders, that we are beginning to understand that what we're doing is no longer the pathfinder, it's the new normal. And it's with great pleasure that I introduce one of our steadfast supporters in the movement and active participants in all we do, the head of the Rural Development, Food and Nutrition Security part of the European Union, Jean-Pierre Halquin. Jean-Pierre, come and tell us your perspectives on how these different pieces fit together.
Thank you very much, David, for those very nice words. I will focus my intervention on two aspects. Which progress were led by the SUN movement, and what are, according to us, the priorities for the SUN 2.0. First of all, I would like to remind what was already said by many, is that SUN is something very unique. It is not a trust fund, it is not a program, it is a movement. It means that it is based on intangible assets. And I would like to mention two intangible assets which are extremely particular. First thing, the global and common vision on nutrition. And second is the human capital. The nutrition-sensitive human capital. To be part of this human capital is something extremely specific. You need to wear a badge like this. And then you are part of the human capital, and we know that during your daily life, according to your mandate position, you are going to be promoting, working, and moving the nutrition agenda forward. What has the SUN movement changed for the European Union? Many things. The action on nutrition of the European Union is based on three pillars. 2013, we had a European Union policy on nutrition and also a political commitment, reducing the number of stunted children by 7 million. Still 2013, we completed this commitment by a financial pledge during the Nutrition for Growth Summit. And just the next year, we also moved into a nutrition action plan to show how we are going to translate that into action. As a result, today, 40 countries have now nutrition as an objective in their long-term cooperation framework in the European Union. We could build this in such a record time because we knew that there was a set of common values which were shared between partner countries and us, and that the EU assistance would be aligned behind policies which are sound and promoted by us. So this is really, for me, a concrete change that was brought by the SUN movement. Since the movement was created, also new building blocks have appeared. I just mentioned the Nutrition for Growth that has been coming with the financial resources which are totally needed in order to move forward on nutrition. Accountability is also something extremely important, and I will mention two initiatives. The GNR, the Global Nutrition Report, which is there to show global progress on nutrition, and another one which has been launched by the European Union together with the United Kingdom and the Gates Foundation, which are the Nutrition Information Platform. This is extremely important because we are all moving towards our target, and it is extremely important that countries need to be able to show that they are going to reach the target. The worst would be achieving the target without being able to demonstrate it. It's also important for countries which are off track, that they may identify where they need to improve performance. So this is where we've been. And with all those instruments, building blocks being in place, we could wonder if we still need a sun movement. And you want to tell me something, David?
No, I just come to talk to you.
Okay. I move then to my closure. The Sun 2.0, what do we want to see in the Sun 2.0? Certainly, there is an element of more of the same. Work hard on the global vision. We see that early risers have moved forward, for instance. Some have been fighting stunting very efficiently, but the issue of malnutrition is changing. Overweight is coming on in the agenda, so global visions need to be adapted. Human capital needs to be strengthened. We need more shareholders because they are the force, the workforce of the Sun movement. And the last point is to build upon what was said by our friend of Uganda. The Sun movement has also to go deeper. It has to help partner countries to shape the agenda so that any elected person, being head of state, minister, prime minister, member of the parliament, mayor, knows that if they want to represent the whole of the population, if they want to address the needs of the most in need, they need to know what nutrition means and what they are going to do in order to face the challenge of nutrition. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jean-Pierre. Thank you. And I actually was walking towards you because I wanted really to acknowledge what you just said about two things: the global vision and common values, and the human capital, this nutrition-sensitive community of people. Very, very interesting and helpful to us. Thank you for stressing that the European Union policy has advanced in this way in 40 countries now, nutrition central in your long-term cooperation framework. And thank you for talking about the big ripple at the end, which resonated so much with what Christine just said. And now we move to our next speaker, panelist, who is Martha Newsom. Martha works for World Vision International. She's partnership leader in sustainable health. And Martha is also a member of the new Sun Executive Committee alongside Abdoulaye. You have the floor.
Thanks, David, and wonderful to be with all this group of passionate and courageous leaders that are part of this movement. So I think as we move forward, we understand that we're at a very pivotal point within the movement in terms of creating this incredible framework that we now need to realize and get down to the community level. But with 1 in 3 people in the planet who are malnourished, I think we would all agree that actually getting to 0 is a wicked problem. I'm not talking about goblins or witches. I'm from the US and we're getting ready to celebrate Halloween, but I think some of you may know that Horst Reitel coined this term in 1973. And one of the characteristics of wicked problems is that they're related to so many other problems. And of course, with nutrition, we have this in spades. So we know that nutrition is linked to poverty, to climate change, poor sanitation and hygiene, lack of health services, and nutrition behaviors and cultural practices. So it's a complex. We know what our theories of change look like when we're trying to reduce chronic malnutrition. But the 10th characteristic of wicked problems really caught my eye. And that 10th characteristic says that designers attempting to address a wicked problem must be fully responsible for their actions. So as I think about the Sun movement, I think we've got that right, because we really we're about empowering national leaders to take charge of solving this problem. Another characteristic that's incredibly important as we solve wicked problems is interdisciplinary collaboration, and most importantly, perseverance. So I think we're 3 years in, and we better get ready to stay the course to finish the job. But the Sun movement is really providing a very effective platform to share knowledge and learning, and it's also built on an incredibly rich set of principles of engagement. Hopefully you've memorized all those principles, but things like mutual accountability and being cost-effective, inclusive, all incredibly important. And I think for those of us who are part of the response to HIV, we found that aligning around common principles is absolutely incredibly important. So these networks are actually serving our members by documenting the learning and helping us to share, hopefully, our successes as well as our failures. The Sun Business Network has helped 10 different countries to set up their national business networks. The civil society platform is reaching 21,000 civil society organizations. That's incredible. And the multi-partner trust fund has allocated $9.9 million for Sun civil society alliances in 24 countries, releasing a true collective force for nutrition, and we need to expand that. So as we think about the challenges that are before us as we solve this wicked problem, we need to continue to build on multi-sectoral, multi-stakeholder platforms, and that really, truly is the backbone of our response strategy. But as we do that, let's remember that we must be global in our response. One of my favorite ideas is this idea that we have to link what we're doing globally to what we're doing nationally to local. So as we move forward, let's remember that these frameworks have to be put into action at the local level. And thanks very much.
Thank you, Martha, very much indeed. Thank you for reminding us that the job is tough, but also for showing us how the principles for engagement, which underline every part of the movement, including the networks, have proved to be important, and the global-local linkages. Great. I asked all the panelists to be super brief so that we have room to talk to each other. But they're saying very rich remarks, and I'm really grateful to them for precision and also for wisdom. And so I'd like to now welcome for our next piece of wisdom, Monica Musonda, who's Chief Executive Officer of Java Foods in Zambia. So thanks for joining us, Monica. You have the floor.
Good morning, everybody. I stand here today to represent not only Java Foods, based in Lusaka, Zambia, but to represent the face of SMEs, local business that is now getting more and more involved in the fight towards malnutrition. It is important that people understand that private sector today is not just about multinationals. It now includes small business such as ourselves, who are on the ground, who see the problems firsthand, who understand the problems around affordability, availability, and understand how to change demand for nutritious products, how to positively influence people towards buying nutritious products. I also stand here to represent women, something which is said, and women are viewed very much as beneficiaries in nutrition, but now women are becoming more involved, becoming distributors, owners of businesses like myself, becoming marketers and the voice of nutrition, and we must talk more about this in this gathering. With respect to business, I think it's important that we commend the movement in terms of creating the business network. What it has done is grouped together private sector who are very much wanting to be involved in the fight towards malnutrition and helping us to understand better government's priorities and government's policies. It also creates an environment of engagement and helps us as private sector speak in a single voice. It also allows you as policymakers, as civil society, to understand our strengths, what we can bring to push this fight towards malnutrition, how you can leverage our skills around changing consumer patterns, around distributing and making available affordable nutrition. But we want to emphasize that consultation remains key. We have seen governments consult in other sectors. If this is your priority, we need to be actively involved in your thought process, and we need to sit with you and engage you towards consultation. This brings an understanding. It then also encourages accountability and transparency. We do hope to hear a lot more about how we can become more engaged, and we hope to see many more private sector, local private sector, attending these gatherings. Thank you very much.
Just your last words. Consultation accountability, transparency. Thank you very much for your commitment to working in those areas as an entrepreneur. More richness. And now to our next panelist, the last panelist in this series, Michael Anderson, Chief Executive Officer of the Children's Investment Fund Foundation and also member of the Sun Movement Lead Group. Michael, welcome. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, David. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here, and it's a real pleasure to see so many people in this audience. I'd like to reflect a little bit on where we've come from and where we're going. Reflecting on where we've come from, I think for myself, my very first meeting of this movement, which I attended in September 2010, and I'd like to tell an embarrassing story that I said at that meeting. I remember very stridently saying, "It's all about the money." And of course, I've learned over time that it's not all about the money. It's all about the multi-sectoral engagement. It's about the leadership. It's about the entrepreneurial spirit of Java Foods. It's about the technologies and working together. And it's all about the people. But there was, in that mistaken statement of mine, one truth, which is that money matters. And one of the things I like to reflect on is where have we come from on the money. We know that there's a huge need to fill investment gaps to improve nutrition outcomes. We've made progress. In 2013, the Nutrition for Growth high-level event in London galvanized an unprecedented level of commitment, over $4 billion. But that's about 1/10 of what we need. So it was progress, but not enough. Another area of progress, and I'm really excited about this, is that in 2015, 30 Sun countries embarked on a mission to put a price tag on nutrition in their national budgets. And this is probably the single most important initiative we've seen, being able to track how much money is there and what's being spent. What gets measured gets managed. And what we saw in that process is that governments and donors spending on nutrition is rising, but it's not enough. More money is urgently needed for high-impact actions in a whole range of sectors. We've also seen that food alone is not enough. We need to pay attention to investing across the range in agriculture, social protection, water, sanitation, hygiene, health. And we also need to track outcomes better. What impact are we having and what can we learn? I passionately believe that part of our success as a movement is in tracking progress, more carefully tracking inputs and following our own actions with transparency and accountability. And my last point is something looking to the future, what we need to do more of. We spent quite a lot of time looking at spending in governments, and for my own organization, we're working on that very hard. We need to spend a lot more time looking at investments in small businesses, investments in the entrepreneurial efforts which are going to produce the goods and services that we need to tackle this problem. And that, I think, ladies and gentlemen, is part of our collective future, which we're going to have to do together. And I look forward to success in the next 5 years. Thank you.
Michael, thank you. Do you mind if we just stand here together and just recap on just the few points? It's about the people, it's about the money, price tags, measurement, multi-stakeholder, entrepreneurs, right?
So I got lots of the buzzwords in.
That was the buzzwords. And in a minute, I'm going to ask each of the panelists. Please take a seat, Michael, up the end. Long way to walk. In a minute, I'm going to ask each of the panelists for their one recommendation to us all as we move ahead in the next 5 years. I'm also going to try to ensure that there is opportunities for those of you who want to ask and to raise points to do so. And so be thinking en anglais, français, espagnol, or whatever language else you wish, Portuguese, be thinking of what you would like to ask. And then I will not only have a discussion here, but I will carry forward to other panels some of the points that are raised. Now let me just check that these microphones are working. This is working. So I'd like just first of all to encourage all of you to think about your one key message, and I'm just going to pass the microphone down from Ambassador Gornaz to others. just one very short key message as a result of what you've heard.
I think
Talk right close to the microphone.
I think the message that I would like to convey is to work together and concentrate on achieving results. Thank you.
Working together, concentrating on results. If we just hold on to these words, some of them will resonate. It doesn't matter if we have repetition. Sometimes that's what we need to remind ourselves of priorities. Ibunina, please.
To me, what we have to achieve at the end is actually nutrition justice and an end of malnutrition in all forms.
So the vision of nutrition justice and an end to malnutrition right at the center of Ibunina's drive and what helped her push towards so much that she's achieved in Indonesia. Abdoulaye.
And for that, we need
Vous parlez en anglais ou non?
I can do it in French also.
Oui, si vous pouvez essayer de parler en français. Merci. Oui, français.
Français. Donc pour cela, nous avons besoin.
Yes, we have to wait a second because it's like when you digit keys on your phone. Okay, there we are. We need champions in each sector, a critical mass of actors who are willing to plan things, to achieve things, and to sort of be responsible for what they're doing.
So many stakeholders all doing something, but how do we get to see the achievements? So my last message is that all partners must be rallied towards the common results framework and to have action plans with clear milestones and indicators to measure progress.
Thank you very much, Madam. Jean-Pierre.
Oui, la nutrition, c'est d'abord l'affaire de tous.
Nutrition has to do with all of us and has to do with justice. Yes.
So I think we need to move from the very impressive gains that we've made at national level to community level. So that means a focus on civil society, local level implementation, and local level accountability.
Thank you very much.
Open engagement and consultation so that business can help achieve greater impact.
Thank you. Michael.
Investing in nutrition is a fantastic investment. We get $16 return for every dollar invested. We have to get this message out. Tell your friends.
Could I also just point out to you how wonderful it is to be working with this group of people, because they are very experienced at being able to convey key messages in very few words. And that's something that all of us in the movement have had to learn. Brevity, precision, and at the same time, good communication. Who would like to come in now from our group? Thank you very much. The microphones are here. Stand up and ask for a microphone. And when you talk, although many of us know who you are, please introduce yourself. Gentlemen, halfway down. If you just say who you are, the microphone will be on and you just talk.
Je le micro. Bonsoir tous. Je suis de la Mauritanie, je suis de la société.
I'm from Mauritania. Thank you very much. I've understood what our friend from Mariame, but I think the moment has come for lobbying together so we can have our government support, because we can't wait for the money from donors, people who fly over. I think now in the Sun movement, civil society leaders, we should all work together to lobby with our politicians to get money out of them, because money is important for nutrition. And we only need 1%, so we could reduce malnutrition with money. Otherwise, without money and government funds, we'll never be able.
It is to work quickly with the involvement of civil society for nutrition justice. Madam, you have the floor.
Gracias, Rosa Mariano Vigrot de Costa Rica.
Their headsets.
So 5 global goals. That's what I'd like to present within a project to fight extreme poverty. 0 hunger, 0 hidden hunger, because in my country, we fought and we've been fighting against child malnutrition, but we continue having hidden hunger and lack of jobs. And I think it is very important to tackle these problems within the Sun movement. I think we should reform the policies in the various countries so that this network may get and sit at the round table with governments in a permanent name so that things don't change every time a government changes.
Hold the different elements of the movement together and maintain this approach even when a government changes. Thank you very much, Doctor. Now we're going to go on and let's pass the microphone round quick as possible. Sir, you have the floor.
The name is Francis Zoto from Ghana, the African Nutrition Society, and from academia. What is important to know is that we are willing to come from our ivory tower glass houses because we do the research to work alongside with all of you so that we can deliver authentic results for sustainability and improving and eradicating malnutrition, improving the nutrition systems and eradicating malnutrition. We are the people to work with. Thank you.
So Francis, stressing about the continued movement of the academic community to work alongside everybody in the movement. Okay, yes, come in.
Mon nom est Aoutou Kofi du cabinet du Premier ministre.
I'm from Ivory Coast, and I'd like to focus on one aspect which I haven't heard much about, the challenge of multi-sectorial actions in consolidating capacity. It is important for everyone to work together, but it's also important to guarantee that we can all contribute with our own capacity. I think that's very important. This challenge of strengthening and empowering can be noticed in the quality of data. We have to create data systems which are reliable so that everyone can really share information and experiences and have clear objectives based on clear, reliable data. So there are other challenges too, education of the on-field actors. So working together, okay, but with a platform where we can share tools. This is what I wanted to say.
Community Ahuntu in Côte d'Ivoire stressing the need for having the necessary tools and capacities for multi-sectoral working. Naha Sangula from Namibia, member of the Sun Movement Lead Group. Welcome, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everybody. From the experience of the Namibia Alliance for the Improved Nutrition, we realized that there is a need to target certain communities, because we discovered that nutrition is sometimes geographical. you find more malnutrition in the rural areas. You also find that nutrition is also influenced by the level of education of the mother. You have to target those mothers whose literacy levels are low. And also that nutrition is influenced by level of poverty. You have to target the poor sections of your communities. Then perhaps you will have the required impact. Thank you.
Thank you. Nahas stressing about the importance to focus on the poor and women. There are groups over here who are just about to get the microphone, and here. I just want to say to the panelists, you're hearing comments from the floor. If at some point you want to jump in, you're not excluded. Just give a good shout. You've got the microphone. So many people want to talk. Madam, you have the floor.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Felicia Dosuma. I'm from the Ministry of Education, Republic of Liberia. And I'm interested in the issue around game changers. We in our country are at the point of establishing our own secretariat, and we realize that it's a challenge. If you don't have the support from up there, where you have a champion. So I just wanted to speak with my colleague from Uganda to give us some highlights on the process in setting up your champions and setting up your coordinating office. Just a few comments on it. Thank you.
There we go. That's what the global gathering is about. It's sharing experiences across. Where are we going? Yes. And then we'll do a group round here. I see you waving. Yes, sir.
Merci. Je suis député Ouidou du Tchad.
I wish to thank all the people who intervened, their very positive contribution, and all of these together will allow us to move forward in fighting malnutrition. And yes, it is a world worry, a world concern, and we have to give it a global response. And I agree on that malnutrition is a violation of the child's right, because malnutrition is a violation of a right to healthy food. So we're all part of it, because there must be commitment, practical commitment by each and one of us. And I'd like all of us to play a role, and I would like all of us together to respond to this emergency. Thank you.
In the blue, you have the floor, and then this corner here, need to get the microphone down there. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Mutibe from Lesotho. I'm working for National University of Lesotho. I just want to commend my sister there from Zambia, Muzonda. That's the very great job she is doing, because, you know, we always have so many graduates from our countries, and unemployment for youth is very high, whereas we still have a high prevalence of in stunting, about 40% or so in Lesotho. But we still have so many graduates there without employment. They can still continue doing the job she's doing. So we just want her, maybe afterwards, give us some few highlights on how she was able to do things. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, who's going to speak over here? Madam. I'm coming down to that. If you feel that you're not able to speak, you just put your hand up high and jump up and down. You'll be next, Madam.
Thank you. My name is Dorothy Maviri from Zimbabwe Food and Nutrition Council.
Talk loud.
For a long time, we've talked about the importance of convening power to ensure that we have effective multi-sectoral coordination. But one of the things that strikes me as I go about my day-to-day work is the need for resources at local level to be able to coordinate. Technical resources are often there, but the coordination resources are lacking. And so I think it's an appeal to donors and to civil society partners to say, when we get to the community community level, what resources can we access that enables us to talk to each other more effectively to promote
that resonates also with what Martha said. Thank you very much indeed. Go back to the lady here. But gentlemen, you have the floor first. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Hang on 1 minute.
I'm
1 minute, it will be
Professor
1 minute.
Dr. Soulunye from Myanmar. So as a country focal point, I want to discuss further to the panelists. Now, as many SUNGG countries have been achieving many progress, but some countries have made tremendous progress, but wins can quickly become lost with climate change and disaster. David Nabarro already mentioned. So that for Myanmar is also achieving many things, but due to the recent disaster floods, all are, I think, the revitalizations again. So that all the achievements and progress must be sustained by better preparations of the challenges like climate change, disaster, and pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Everybody, we remember, I'm coming later. I'm just down here for a couple of seconds because Nazreen Khan from Bangladesh, government of Bangladesh, you have the floor, madam. I'm sorry that I held you up just now.
Thank you, sir. To us in Bangladesh, we believe that nutrition is life. It is not all about technicalities. And to touch that life, we need more commitment, and should come from the political commitment level, the higher level and the top level, and it should be propagated to the downside, up to the sub-districts and so on, to the community. And for that one, we require much advocacy that we are doing now. We require more attention and more investment. And thanks, Michael. Nutrition is all about investment. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Nutrition is life. Nutrition is livelihoods. Just going over here, sir, you have the floor.
Здравствуйте, меня зовут Алмаз Джиналиев.
Okay, wait 1 second, 1 minute, sorry. Bit of...
My name is Almazina Zoud. I'm from Kyrgyzstan, and for the first time in Kyrgyzstan, a law was issued on nutrition and malnutrition. And so it is the first country where the topic of nutrition and malnutrition are connected. Our program aims at improving the yields, the cropping yields, and it is the first time our government gives such importance to implementing an agri-food program. But I'd like to ask the representatives from international organizations to also think of our country. It's the first time we're present here as Kyrgyzstan.
It is an absolute delight to hear that the government has now given this a legal basis. Could you all give a really big clap to Kyrgyzstan? This is what the movement is about. It's about leadership and getting governments to actually be accountable. Thank you very much indeed. Brilliant. Here now, who's had their hands up for longest? Difficult to know. Anyway, you have the floor. But it will be you next.
Prakash from India. Three things are very critical, I feel. One, to share the success stories of one country with the other as far as nutrition programs are concerned. Number two, motivate the youngsters to be a part of the lifelong cycle. And I think educating a 12-year-old girl or a boy will take us to 3 generations. Lastly, sustainability will be built in by not only 150 industries which have the social CSR, but I think the other CSR is concerned social responsibility.
Yes, thank you very much.
And that will take us forward to more than 1,500 industries. Thank you very much.
But very good. Take it on board. Young people more involved. Madam here, then Florence just came and told me that I was being inequitable, so I must have... Madam.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Sibia, Togozile Sibia from Swaziland. I'm in academia in food and nutrition. I just want to be clear that as Swaziland, we are very much excited to be part of the movement, SUN movement, and that being in academia, we wish to do appropriate research that is going to be evidence-based and convince our parliamentarians and also bring on board or be linked up with the business sector in order to move this forward. Therefore, wherever we can benefit in terms of the tools, the frameworks that are going to generate results.
Thank you. So, commitment from academia, that's a second very strong statement, and a request for tools and frameworks. So we will be in this global gathering having the opportunity for those kinds of interactions. Sir, you have the floor. Thank you, Florence, for helping me to be more equitable. Sir.
Assalamu alaikum.
Good morning. My name is Charlie Cha from Chad. First of all, I would like to express my wholehearted thanks for all people who have organized this global gathering. I'd like to thank also those who be in charge of the follow-up period. I also would like to mention something else. I'd like to mention that we need to talk about the plan for the next 5 years, a plan considering fairness and justice, which is a very important pillar requiring engagement from all of us if we want to have satisfactory results, inshallah. If we work on fairness and justice and on the right to a proper evaluation of the rights of women and children, I'm sure that there will be an important accomplishment going forward. Do think of this new commitment that will require all of us to adopt initiatives, both at a national as well as a global level.
To you talk, you're saying we must do it, and you're saying I am ready to be accountable for doing it. And this is where we are now. Sir, you have the floor, and then the gentleman in blue. But first, we are quite male, and so we will go to women next. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Said Mshangama.
There's a woman here, yeah, I can see.
Des Comores.
Vengo dalle Isole Comore. I come from the Comore Islands, and I'd like to focus on some essential aspects, namely a greater involvement and engagement of the private sector and agricultural sector, because the fight against malnutrition is linked to the quality of supply. As long as Europe and the other developed countries do not realize the quality of their food, there will still be lots of problems, because they'll continue to sell sweets which satiate us, but they're not good for our health. And that mainly affects urban environments. So we have an issue about information on quality, but I think it's about improving the supply too, and favor communication and partnership between consumers, manufacturers, and also the private sector to achieve a better quality production. Because women in agriculture, when they have to work and look after their children, they have no time to cook with traditional recipes. They need to do it quickly, and that goes to the detriment of a healthy cooking.
Foods available from retail outlets are not adequately nutritious. So our colleague from Comoros, welcome to Comoros. Lovely you're here. says we must work with the private sector to get better and more nutritious products, especially for busy women. Thank you very much indeed. So last gentleman, and now we're going to have after you 3 women.
Merci.
So I'm looking for the women that are going to come next. Yes, sir.
Merci. Bonjour, moi je m'appelle Seydou.
Good morning. My name is Dusiai, and I represent the Senegal Civil Society Network. In the light of what Anderson said, who pointed to the issue of nutrition, which is not just about money, then Mr. Abdoulaye also talked about Mary Mubi. We represent Mary Pa, and we need to be more cognizant of the mechanisms allowing us to take up and win over this challenge. We need to know what's the cost of all of this, and we need to know where the necessary assets and resources may come from. But how will we be able to follow this up if we all comply with the commitments made? Just like in any other movements, I think it would be useful to state here that what we want to do will cost so and so much, will yield so and so much after so and so many months, because such accountability needs to be practically translated into our objectives.
This afternoon at 13:30, we have a session on the costs of tackling malnutrition. And our colleague from Senegal has just said, unless we know the costs, unless we know the money, it's very hard to follow up and make sure that the necessary action is taken. This is why we have the civil society network and involvement of civil society organizations in the movement. Super important point. Madam.
Таджикистан.
Okay, put your microphones, put your headphones
Первый
on.
заместитель министра здравоохранения.
I come from Tajikistan. Tajikistan has joined the Sun movement in 2013. In 2014, we prepared a document on malnutrition and on the right to food, a document which was submitted to our government. The goal of this document was to set as a priority for national development the right to healthy food, to good nutrition. We were successful in doing that because in the new 2016 and 2030 development policy, food security has been included among priorities. The president of Tajikistan considers as a priority all issues related to nutrition, and we do hope that the scaling up movement will be successful. Thank you very much.
Now making nutrition and food security part of national policy, again through law. Madam.
Спасибо огромное. Я тоже представляю Министерство.
Every year, our ministry produces forecasts about social and economic development of Tajikistan. Let me tell you that going forward, myself and my ministry we are planning to include also nutrition-related issues in our forecasts. With our forecasts, we'd like to get funds from the state. That's my promise for the future.
The necessary data work. Now, where are we? So you have the floor. Just 1 second to say swagat to our colleague Yagya Karki from the National Planning Commission of Nepal. On behalf of all of us here, we would like to express our solidarity with with Nepal and its people, and we acknowledge that the Bhuichala earthquake has caused terrible loss of life, and we are with you as you recover. I myself lived in the district of Sindhu-Palchok in Chautara, which was, I believe, the worst district in the earthquake, and so we stand with you as you move forward. You have the floor.
Thank you, David. Actually, you mentioned one of the important points that we were going to mention. And first of all, we'd like to thank on behalf of Nepal all the delegates for the inspiring speeches and suggestions for the future. As you are well aware, that Nepal also has an enormous problem of stunting. Over 40% of the children are stunted in the country of some 30 million people. Given that we have already in place MSNP, which is the multi-sector nutrition plan, we have been working hard to achieve our goals, but then I wanted to bring to you all this August gathering about the extragenous factors that affect our activities to achieving our goals, like the natural calamity that David already mentioned, as well as other factors like political instability and government changes that affect our activities quite often. Now, given this international gathering, brainstorming on how to tackle such very serious problem of malnutrition, what sort of suggestions would you have for a country like ours? Thank you very much.
So thank you, and could we just give a big hand to Mr. Karki? Thank you for joining us. Of course, there are many countries here that are experiencing disasters and calamities. We heard from Myanmar, but there are also countries here that are affected by war, some very serious and unpleasant wars. And it's really with big respect that we greet people who are working in these very difficult circumstances. Sir, if you introduce yourself, and then you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Nabarro. My name is Mutahar Al-Abbasi, the Vice Minister of Planning and International Cooperation.
Please look at the audio.
In Yemen. As you know, Yemen is experiencing an internal and external war. We in the government have, with our partners from the donors and civil society and private sector, have developed an action plan for combating malnutrition. Over the last decades, Yemen has experienced kind of reasonable results of combating malnutrition. However, during a war, I believe the segment of society, specifically children and women, are paying a heavy price for that, and malnutrition is now alarming in the war zones in many areas, in the cities or in the rural areas. So I wonder how we can develop a kind of interim plans and extra resource mobilization to help societies experiencing war, especially to provide support to those who are affected by the war, especially in the rural area and in the remote area. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Of course, our colleague Alam from
Grazie, adesso sentiamo la collega.
Minister in Yemen, and Alam is getting a big praise from the Minister. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thank you. So now, Madam, I looked at you and I wanted you to speak, and I've looked at you and I would like you to speak. You have the floor. Yeah, okay, fine. Thank you. And somewhere George Kembo, I don't know where he is.
Muy buenos días, soy
Buenos
María
días.
Rosa Bollo de Perú y quería...
So, hello, I'm from Peru, and we managed in privileging the topic of malnutrition and made important progress, but we're in a stage at which the pace of reduction of malnutrition is starting to stagger a little. So we're slower now in reducing malnutrition. We want local governments to commit more. That's why I believe it is very important to talk about subnational levels and local communities, not only as a place where knowledge can be created, but also a place where decisions can be taken. So the challenge for the future will be to organize a decision-making progress in public policies and get, at the same time, national policies more involved at a local level. It is a challenge for national policy, but also for the Sun movement. And this challenge will enable us to sort of become more specific when guidelines, for example, are put forward.
Reductions in malnutrition are slowing. So let us go local and get platforms at the local level. Thank you very much for reminding us of the importance of that. Jocelyn from Haiti, if we could just pass the microphone along to our colleague from Port-au-Prince. Vous avez la parole.
Bonjour à tous. Je vais...
So, good morning. I speak on behalf of this island of the Caribbean, Haiti. And on Sunday, we will have elections. There are 54 candidates. Haiti has become an important country, and this movement enabled us to bring nutrition and food on all tables, and this is the most difficult task. So now you've understood what the problem is. We've opened our eyes, but not our ears yet. There are 54 member countries here who can help us operate on the various platforms. So we're asking universities, private sector, everybody's help so that everybody commits so as to be able to reactivate the will we had in 2012 when we adhered to the movement. Because besides common ordinary problems linked to malnutrition, we also have another challenge, a further one, that of poor nutrition. 70% of the population suffers from it, which testifies to the lack of food. Haiti will not be able to solve this problem on its own. So I want to ask your help from all of you so that we can survive and overcome this problem.
For stressing that this does require solidarity to help you keep the issue up high, but also to get the means. So George Kembo, focal point from Zimbabwe. You have the floor.
Thank you, David. I want to reiterate what Anderson said and what also the EU said. He talked about it's not money, it's about the people. And the EU said we have a lot of investment in our people. And I want to make a proposal to say, let's begin to take the scaling up nutrition to the community. Let's engage with the village chiefs. Let's inspire them to address the nutrition problems they are facing within their community. And let's allow them to invest the resources, the knowledge they have within their community for them to get themselves out of their nutrition problems. So I'm proposing that the scaling up nutrition should now move from national, provincial, to the community and begin to see champions emanating from village level. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, we have a colleague from, where are you from, madam?
South Sudan.
Colleague from Juba.
Yes.
You have the floor.
Thank you very much. I'm called Rebecca Lum William. I work for the Ministry of Health, the Director for Nutrition. Thank you very much for being in this gathering. We have all the challenges which has been mentioned here, but we need to prioritize and tackle one by one. So for us, it's more a call for our development partners and for our donors to relook at South Sudan once more, because we have had wars. After getting our independence, we went back into a civil war, or maybe an in-country war. As peace has been signed now, we want to believe that this peace will really prevail. For this reason, as we start to rebuild the community again, those mothers and children who have been suffering, and they will start coming back. And as they are coming back, they have nowhere to stay, they have no clean water, they live in a very poor hygiene and sanitation condition, and all this lead to malnutrition. That is why today we don't have a nationwide data, but we have ad hoc data which is saying that our malnutrition levels are above even 3 times the accepted levels. And if malnutrition is a human right violation, then please stand with South Sudan so that we can walk out of this violation. But the most important thing right now where we want to start is to have a nationwide reliable data which we can use for advocacy at all levels. And thank you very much.
So, Madam, I hope that as we go through this global gathering, you will be able to get some progress. We can't solve everything, we know that. You have massive problems, but we will do our best. Now, there are people who've been trying to get to speak for quite some time, and you have the floor, sir.
Okay. Merci beaucoup. Je m'appelle Roch Mangbo, je suis du Bénin.
My name is Roch Mangbo. I come from Benin, Permanent Secretary from the Council on Nutrition. The government has taken commitments in the past 5 years with the help of Partners for Development, and our government is working very precisely on nutrition. 2 points I'd like to highlight. Horizontal learning between and among us. This can make us make step forward. A delegation from Benin will visit the Senegal shortly, and Senegal is a source of inspiration when it comes to reducing malnutrition for us. So this visit is going to be very important. And secondly, with the commitment of our government, I think there will be a very important aspect to be mentioned, that is human dignity. I mean, in our talks, we should always respect human dignity and respect local communities, because these local communities must know and act, be aware and act. We know it's a sensitive ground. We know knowledge sometimes, is passed down to local community, but we have to respect local community. So we have to respect local communities' capacity of knowing their problems and act. Yes.
Being local, local ownership, local action. And I think it's Dr. Farah from Somalia. Thank you for joining us. It's nice to see you again. You have your moment, sir. 1 minute.
Thanks a lot. Good morning, everybody. I am Dr. Farah from Office of the Prime Minister, Somalia, the focal point for nutrition SUNGG movement. I do agree with whatever has been said by my colleagues, and actually my understanding now comes to a point that we need to take the initiative of SUNGG movement, and at the same time focusing nutrition at the community level, at the grassroots, at where malnutrition is actually happening. That is a good suggestion, and it's very important. But when I listen to what people are saying here, I understand that countries are not in the same level. And we always talk about prioritizing and focusing where the need is most. I find out that so many countries are pleading for help, asking for assistance, to take the initiative to the grassroots level. And I could suggest maybe, and I've talked several times with the SUNGG movement Secretariat, of creating a cluster of countries that need more focus and assistance, and also learning lessons from them and among themselves so that we have a practical, very prioritized and focused interventions in those countries so that the malnutrition can be tackled at the grassroots level and where most of the population or suffering is happening.
Thank you, Dr.
So
Farah.
that could be my suggestion to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that very constructive suggestion. I'd like to invite our colleague from Guatemala to speak. You have the parole.
Creo que el compromiso político es algo.
I believe political commitment is very important. The government of Guatemala for 10 years now has had a law on food security and nutrition throughout the country. But what we cannot measure, we cannot change. So unless we have valid information system and assessment systems, and also funds, and unless we know what to invest where, then it won't be enough to commit. I mean, a political commitment is only the beginning. Then we have to ensure many other tools that enable us to measure changes in the populations. And then, of course, what we aim at is a better life for all children below.
Got 3 days, and I know many of you would love to speak, but that's what this is all about, is speaking, sharing, asking questions. And they're the point again about data, like we heard from South Sudan. Different countries, but similar needs. Madam.
Bonjour à tous. Bonjour à tous. Je suis Dr.
So good morning. I am from the World Health Organization, and we all know that the problem of malnutrition starts when the baby is born. We have the problem of women when we talk about malnutrition. We know that in our countries, the men are more powerful in the family. So I think we should also get men involved in malnutrition plans at a family level, just like we do for family planning, because men are very powerful within our families, and it's also men who have nutrition in their hands. So we have to get men involved, not only women.
In this gathering, to women's empowerment, means through which you've had opportunities to do this, opportunities to share. But we're also welcoming parliamentarians here, and it's with pleasure that I introduce Giuliano Lunguzi from Malawi, who's a parliamentarian.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm a parliamentarian. I chair the Parliamentary Committee on Health in Malawi, and I'm super excited to be here. And one of the things I want to highlight that this is a movement, and the noise is very important. The visibility is very important. Looking at even from the train station to the airport, when you go to Rio, can you really make this to be more visible? And at country level, can we emphasize on the three issues when it comes to nutrition, the M&D coordinating, and we need to share to see what is it that we can do. And finally, in meetings like this, we usually talk to ourselves. Can we include the politicians who make the decisions, who allocate the resources to make sure that we allocate more to nutrition? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, time is running out. 1, 2, quick, if we can get the microphone to you. Very super fast.
Thank you. My name is Christine. I am Deputy Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, Namibia, and also a Member of Parliament.
Another parliamentarian.
Yes. The issue of nutrition is put on the shoulders of government, which is true, and civil society that comes in. In the face of disasters and wars that we face, I think government is channeling its resources towards mitigating the effects of disasters and war, and that leaves a little for nutritional effects, nutritional interventions. Now, I was happy when Monica spoke about the involvement of the
public sector. And I wanted to know how we can engage the public sector to complement government efforts
Private sector.
The private sector into complementing the efforts of government in mitigating the effects of malnutrition in our countries.
Nice. Thank you very much indeed. And now from Senegal, vous avez la parole.
Je suis Dr Matigan Kamara.
My name is Matigan Samaya, and I'm head of Malnutrition and Health Division at the Ministry of Public Health. I'd like to add to what's been said on Mariama. I think we should strengthen the health system in order to ensure better health to pregnant mothers. And this, you see, will in fact prevent other situations like Mariama. And we should better organize women within society so that women are more independent and they are empowered about the health of their children.
Longer than it said in my instructions, because there were so many points that you wanted to raise. We will have more opportunities to do this, so many more, and I hope that this has made you thirsty. Some of you were talking about measuring and following the money, particularly our colleague from Senegal. There is a very interesting new paper on budget analysis for nutrition by the Sun Movement Secretariat, together with other colleagues who will be talking very much with you during this global gathering. 30 Sun countries had 4 regional workshops organized by UNICEF on behalf of the United Nations Network for Sun, supported by the Sun Multi-Partner Trust Fund, to which many in this room have contributed. Do have a look at this. It's part of an effort that involves many, including the development banks, the World Bank and others, to understand how the money is being spent, which is key to improving efficiency and effectiveness, and also vital for you advocates when you're trying to drive up the investment and improve its quality. And that gives me a chance to give my own personal thanks to members of the Secretariat who've worked so hard. You saw them moving around with me, identifying people, trying to get me not to make terrible mistakes. And during the course of this gathering, please go up to them, talk to them, appreciate them, because as Tom Arnold said, they are extraordinary people. Now I'm going to invite each speaker to just react to what they have heard. I'm going to start in my end, that is closest to me, with Ambassador Gornas. Ambassador, I'm going to try to get you a microphone. I hope there is one near you. So this was a flavor, and there will be more. What is your reaction to what you have heard?
Okay.
Close to you, man.
Okay. What I have heard is very interesting from different participants, and I think the most important thing, in my view, is the local actions. Local actions actually make global results. So it's very important that we raise the awareness of our communities about this important problem of malnutrition. This is the nutrition, having good nutrition that means having good health, having good education, having development, and so it's very important that we raise the awareness of our local people. Another thing, the issue of money. It's very important the participation of donors in this, but also the local communities. If they know how important nutrition is, they are going to participate. And the third thing is that we have to enter into partnership with the government, with the private sector, with the civil society organizations, with academia, with financial institutions, all of them, so as to end malnutrition in all its forms. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And really, all of us look forward to working intensively with the Committee on World Food Security, and congratulations on your election. Ibunina, you've been a member of the lead group since it started. You've been in the movement now for 5 years. Your reactions to what you hear?
I'm very happy to hear these 55 countries involved in the SUNGG movement. Never ever imagined when the SUNGG movement was established that there will be 55 countries involved. But what I would like to underline, above all said, the movement need to also gain sufficient political support. And I'm happy that parliamentarians from some countries are with us, and that is very important. It's not only for the countries who bring the parliamentarians here, but also of all of us. The second thing is, I think it's been repeatedly said that the government should be able to work better with private sector to tackle the malnutrition problems. Of course, there are a number of things that need to be followed. Code of the conflict of interest will have to be underlined in working with the private sector. And the government indeed cannot work alone without the support from private sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ibunina. You're getting a clap there. Would you like to make your clap longer?
Thank you.
For lots of reasons, for your leadership and for also always your wisdom. Thank you. Monsieur.
Merci beaucoup. Moi, je voulais...
Thank you. I wanted to focus on one point. First of all, I'd like to emphasize the amount of energy I feel in this room, energy we need to continue in our struggle. And then there is something else I'd like to talk to, the institutionalization of nutrition. It was mentioned by some colleagues. There are risks related to changes of government in our respective countries, and with all the relevant institutional changes. Based on our limited experience, I'd like to know whether a role could be played by national champions who would ensure continuity in leadership and thereby keep proposing solutions, because decision makers want to have real facts, something they can base their commitment on. Another important point is the system we'd like to implement to have our movement work better. The various players and stakeholders, despite the changes, will be able to continue to fight for nutrition. So I think it's important to have a transparent system, a system based on transparency and also on result-based management. And also accountability counts a lot, and we'll be able to develop all these points together.
But thank you very much indeed. Christine.
Thank you very much. I was asked a very specific question on how we have gotten the political leadership into nutrition. There are two things happened. Anthony Lake visited and caused peer sensitization of the Prime Minister and drew the Prime Minister's attention to the data that was, that was appalling in Uganda. So that was one, peer sensitization. Then two, institutionalizing nutrition. The Prime Minister who was actually seen by Anthony Lake is not the Prime Minister anymore. But the current one also took up the baton and is running with it because it was institutionalized. It was institutionalized in the system of the office, so there's no turning back. Whoever comes and picks office will run with it. Then 3 is the Prime Minister's office is the coordination node for all government business. So in the selection of the Secretariat for coordination, I would advise that you go for that MDA whose mandate it is to coordinate government business. In our case, it was very easy because it is the office of the Prime Minister. And that's our mandate, and we're happy to do it.
Thank you very much. And thank you for acknowledging that. Christine, I think you're going to be very popular in this global gathering. You'll need a manager to look after you because everybody's going to want to know how you did it. Congratulations and thank you. Aha. Jean-Pierre.
Thank you very much, David.
Talk close.
I will speak closely. I have 3 points that I remember that I believe have been very repeated or told in a very important way. First is that we need to keep nutrition very high on the agenda in a resilient manner, notably resilient to government change, political change, and that's something important because we are not going to solve the issue of undernutrition by next year. It is something that is going to take many years to be solved. Second is about ownership, and it is related also to resource mobilization. We need to mobilize private sector and public sector resources. And whenever we speak about public sector resources, we heard that money which is taking the plane has not the same catalytic effect as national resources. And this is something very important. And at the end also that resources which are dedicated or spent locally are even more important. The last point is to be able to show results. That's something very important. We need to be able to show results starting from the local point and to bring it to the global level. All this point to the importance of the accountability system. Accountability on resource dedicated to nutrition, accountability on action taken, and at the end, accountability on result achieved, starting from the community level to the country level. We know that data are not the most sexy element to discuss, but if we don't have the right data, we will not succeed to maintain nutrition at the place it deserves on the global agenda. Thank you, David.
Thank you very much indeed for stressing the point about data and accountability, as well as your other points. Yeah, Mark.
So thank you for all the wonderful statements that everyone made, and I was glad that some of you in the audience picked up on this theme of making sure that we get the resources.
And you have to shout.
And, oh, okay, so it's shout, all right. The resources and the capacities to the local level. So that's my first point. Secondly, I heard people talking about the importance of politicians and then a reminder about the youth, very, very important. But who else have we missed? As I was listening now, I don't know how many, I don't speak as many languages as was spoken, but I don't think I heard about grandmothers.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think I heard...
Grandmothers, remember grandmothers, she
yes.
said.
I didn't...
Grand-mère.
Grand-mère, that's right. And I don't think I heard anything about faith leaders. So I think as we think about changing behavior at the local level, we need to get to the folks that most influence those behaviors. So let's not forget the grandmothers and the faith leaders. And then lastly, I couldn't agree more with everyone who talked about the data and the need for information, the need to track results. But again, I'm not sure if we've missed the opportunity to think about digital technology and the ubiquitous mobile phones that are out in all the communities. I was just in Sierra Leone and Senegal, and they were everywhere. So people were streaming, from the local village. So how do we use those phones to really help us track the results so we can convince the politicians to continue to invest? Thanks.
Thank you very much. Brilliant. Big hand coming for you. I could hear it starting up over there. Good. Almost. Thank you. Almost. Yes, Monica.
Yes. Thank you very much for the questions, particularly about the role of private sector in the movement. I think what is clearly has been articulated and what we agree on is this fight is actually multi-stakeholder. We cannot win it if we don't work as a team. And I think the first important step and progress we have seen the movement take is to create the business networks. And the networks are a great group of like-minded business companies in each of the various countries who are willing and able to engage with government, policymakers, politicians, and civil society, so that one, we understand what the national strategy is in the particular country, how we can, one, input, we can be open about some of the difficulties in execution, some of the problems around the high cost of doing business, because the reality is that in many of our countries, doing business is quite expensive, it's quite high. And in order for us to achieve your agenda, or the agenda to make sure that nutritious products are on the shelf, you have to understand some of the difficulties that we go through. And I think using the business network in order for us to speak as a single voice is a very helpful first step. We are here as private sector to engage, to consult, but also here to help, because we want you to leverage some of our resources, some of the things that we have done very well. We are able to understand the consumer better, we're able to act quicker, we're able to leverage efficiencies and technologies better, and raise financing better. So engage us so that we can achieve your goals, perhaps quicker, but also that we're working together. And I think we should commend government for many in other areas where we've seen there are priorities and they've been able to engage private sector in those priorities. This is a priority in many countries, and therefore I think engagement not only with ourselves, but with civil society and other stakeholders is going to be very important. Thank you.
Thank you, beautiful. Really clear, strong. Thank you for your messages. Michael.
Thank you. I don't know quite how to come after that, but I would like to say that we stand at a moment in history when we can either make this a success or we can fumble it and it could become a failure. 1 in 3 people in the world are malnourished worldwide. Nutrition, we know, is a powerful driver of sustainable development. Nutrition has the power to either propel the sustainable development agenda forward or to hold it back. These new goals we have won't be realized unless we prioritize nutrition. And to be honest, nutrition's not getting as much attention as it should have, given its importance at the moment. We've made tremendous progress in improving nutrition, but our wins could easily become losses. They could become losses if we don't pay attention to climate change, which is going to make this a lot harder. They could become losses if we don't pay attention to equality for women and girls and empowering women and girls in multiple sectors, because that's going to be a key for achieving this change. They could be losses if we don't create enabling environments for small businesses to grow and deliver the goods and services we need that'll deliver nutritious outcomes. And they could be losses if we don't continue to mobilize the money. And I'll just end with a point on the 4th of August in Rio, there's going to be a meeting of the Nutrition for Growth Summit, and it's another chance for us to all mobilize our efforts, and I look forward to seeing people there. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. What a panel. What a fantastic, fantastic group of people you are. And now I'd like to ask our Master of Ceremonies, Tom Arnold, the coordinator, to come and join me, because it's my moment to share with the coordinator some of the points that you made during this opening panel. And Tom, I've got 12 headings, but don't worry, it will be done super quick. Firstly, you can't get anywhere without champions, and they're usually high-level political champions, but whatever it is, they need to be people who can lead us. Secondly, you can't get anywhere without action at the local level. As Dr. Farah said, where the problem is. But that local action needs to be well put together, based around a common results framework, locally owned and well implemented. Thirdly, resources are essential, human resources and financial resources from the government and the communities, as well as international resources. Fourthly, civil society, including parliamentarians, including faith leaders, including local community groups, are key for action and accountability. Fifth, we have to be able to measure progress against our results frameworks. Without data, we are stuck badly. Sixth, we do need to be inclusive, involving all groups. And in particular, number 7, it is time to get business more engaged, but engaged in a way that helps ensure that they stick to the principles that we all believe are important, whilst at the same time that they help us because they have expertise, special expertise to offer. So there is clearly an interest in that. But also 8, academia. It was great that we have academics here telling us they want to do more and we want to do it with them. 9, however, we have some clouds on the horizon. We have war, we have disasters, we have climate change, and we're going to need to be able to take these into account because, as we heard from the panel, they could undo all the progress so easily. So 10, we must institutionalize nutrition so it's not a political fashion, so that it exists whatever the government. And number 11, we need to have resilience of our own work and of the work of others based around a principle of mutual accountability. And number 12, last point, our panelist at the end said, we mustn't fail. I think we must commit solemnly to each other that we're not going to fail. It's our opportunity, it's in our collective hands, and that's where we're going to move forward with this global gathering. Thank you, Tom, for giving us the chance. I'd like just simply to say to you, this is a marvelous panel, and I think that they have done us proud, but so has the whole global gathering. Thank you.
David, thank you very much. I completely agree with you about the panel and the crowd, but also thank you for your masterly pulling together of what was a wonderful expression of diversity in terms of the geographical location, in terms of the viewpoint, but also the dominant thing, as Abdoulaye mentioned it, the energy that's here in this room. And I mean, the critical thing that we are here to learn from each other. And so I think we have a great starting point this morning. We're going to continue that learning now with the coming back.
Yeah, do you know, I left the most important thing out.
Okay, off you go.
Who are at the center of all our work? It's not us.
No.
For some reason, we're biologically wrong.
Yeah. Yes.
Aren't we?
We are.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So just to say that we heard today very strongly, it's the women who are at the center of all of it, but we have to help make it happen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll do our best. We'll do our best. That's a profoundly critical insight at the end. It's just as well he remembered now at the end that important point. But anyway, we are going now to the marketplace, and the whole point again of the marketplace is that it's a demonstration about what's happening in different countries. And so it's a chance to mingle, it's a chance to read, it's a chance to talk, and it's a chance to eat, happily enough. And after that, we want to come back here and resume at 1:30. Thank you very much for a fantastic morning.
Okay, so we go together. If we just come together, and Tom is going to lead us off. Tom, are you leading us off? Tom's going to take us down. And so, ladies and gentlemen, just your panel is leaving. Please appreciate them as they follow Tom to the marketplace. Careful. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, mate.
See the children walk around with no food to eat. Those who don't get the best to eat. Babies on the bread, mommies don't breastfeed. Surely we can do better than this. We can do our best, that you can do your part. Together we will save the future. Save a child today. Give them the best love you can. Save a child today. Give them the best meal you can. Set your future today, 'cause the first 1,000 days make the big difference. Save a child today. Give them the best love you can. Save a child today. Give them the best meal you can. Set your future today, 'cause the first 1,000 days make the big difference. Hey, it's your duty to feed the child today. Feed them right is the thing to do. We are thus to protect the future generation, not to kill them along with us. We need them for the future. Feed them right for the first 1,000 days. Make the difference just to show how much you care. Oh, save a child today. Give them the best love you can. Save a child today. Give them the best meal you can. Set your future today, 'cause the first 1,000 days make the big difference. First 1,000 days is the way. First 1,000 days, feed them right. First 1,000 days, no malnutrition. Give the best that you can. First 1,000 days is the way. First 1,000 days, feed them right. First 1,000 days, no malnutrition. Give the best that you can. Save the child today. Save the child today. Give them the best love you can. Give them the best. Save the child today. Oh, give them the best meal you can. Set your future today, 'cause the first 1,000 days make the big difference. Feed them right, feed them now. Save the child today. It will go a long way. Give them the best love you can. Give them best, give it now. Save a child today. Save a child today. Give them the best meal you can. You can. Set your future today. Do your best. 'Cause the first 1,000 days make the big difference. Say the word, say the word. Save the child today. Give them the best love you can. Save a child today. Give them the best meal you can. Set your future today, 'cause the first 1,000 days make the big difference.